Just a stone's throw from Sheffield, in 500 acres of woodland and pasture, sits Wentworth Castle. It's an impressive sight, but I'm not here to see the stately pile. What I'm after is the view. This landscape is listed, just like a building of historic significance, and I want to find out more about how it's been restored to its former glory. Now, it takes more than a spot of extreme gardening to breathe life into an 18th century estate. This is a living landscape. Red deer roamed freely here 200 years ago, furry lawnmowers keeping the grass and shrubs at bay.
Come on!
Now they're back again, thanks to a local deer farm that graze a herd here.
There you go, Matt.
Thank you.
This is Lucy, this.
This is oh, we've got bread. Hello, Lucy. Looking at the girls here, you've got a lovely herd, haven't you?
I find the more I put into my animals, the more I get back. And it's not a job anymore, it's an addiction. I think my wife's a deer widow, not a golf widow.
These deer thrive on the estate's rough pasture, nibbling at the grass, shaping this landscape as surely as any gardener. This whole estate is the vision of one man.
Thomas Wentworth expected to inherit the landed estate at Wentworth Woodhouse, 7 miles that way, across the valley.
Instead, Wentworth Woodhouse was left to Thomas's cousin. Determined to outdo him, Thomas secretly bought this neighbouring estate in 1708.
He began a grand development scheme, not just on the house, but throughout the grounds. It was a conspicuous display of wealth for all to see.
Estate manager Michael Klemperer has the daunting task of keeping this place in order.
So this, Michael, is one of his major statements, and it's a beautiful thing, isn't it? It's a wonderful creation.
It is remarkable. He built a mock medieval castle, so because he's harking back to a former age, he wanted it to appear that his family had been here for generations. This was a folly, really, for his kids. It's like a giant Wendy house.
And why did he start building all these follies?
Well, he started building them really as an act of kind of competition with his cousins. He bought the nearest landed estate and built this enormous edifice as a big fingers up to them across the valley. And immediately they entered this kind of competitive building phase. So he builds a baroque wing, his cousin builds a baroque wing, his cousin then builds the longest stately home in England, which is 600 feet long. So an enormous thing. It's 365 rooms, one for each day of the year. Eventually his cousin outstripped him because he had greater coal wealth. I mean, these guys were very, very rich. They were billionaires, and that massive wealth enabled them to build these enormous monuments.
But there's one structure that requires a little more effort to find.
The real jewel in this estate's crown is down there, beneath the scaffolding.
Glass houses like this were all the rage in the late 1800s, fueled by the fashion for exotic plants. While others were busy pulling theirs down, this one remained, forgotten. Now the estate's waiting to find out if their bid for funding to restore it has been successful.
This is the heating system in here, then?
Yeah, that's the heating system. You can see there was a whole network of elaborate pipes with iron grids over the top.
Yeah.
The tiles that we've just crawled over are the original tiles from the building, which are very well preserved. So most of the tiles in here we're actually going to reuse, which is a real plus.
And you can see, can't you, still that the kind of the little pathways that work their way around this glass house. So there's quite a few clues as to what it was like.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's the original path layout. There's parts of the original green paints. We know it was painted green. It was two-tone green at one stage. A few of the plants from the 1950s, so there's kind of these large camellias, there's a few rhododendrons. This cordyline here is probably, 20, 30 years old.
Yeah.
So there's a number of things in here which give clues to the sort of planting that was in here. We also have photos as well, which helps, a hell of a lot.
I guess for something, you'd be very proud of it, so yeah, they'll be taking loads of shots.
They were extremely proud of it.
And how about the technology as well, then? How did it actually work?
This is right at the forefront of modern technology. There was electricity in here, so it was all lit with a very early electric lighting system from a big generator. It was as early than Buckingham Palace, to put it in its context.
Well, if they do get that funding, they'll certainly have their work cut out.
Must be a pretty daunting task, because it goes on and on and on.
It does, yeah. I mean, it will be restored long after I'm gone, I'm afraid. But
And what is it like for you to have that responsibility when you think back to all of those that created it and what a vision that they had?
well, it is a big responsibility for any head gardener to do these kind of sites, but that it's a privilege really to have the chance to make a difference, you know, to restore these amazing sites, you know.